Bonjour, je suis Bandanner. Bienvenue sur la chaîne. How was that, French people? Did I nail it? Don't quite have the accent right, do I? Hi everyone, Bandanner here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another WARNO deck build. Remember to subscribe to this new channel if you haven't already. Today we are looking at the 5E, the French tank division. We're going for a 1v1 ranked deck build today, but you can extrapolate it and use it in team games and 10v10s if you're not being too fussy, and jiggle it around as you wish. I'll be completely honest with you, I don't play the French a lot, though I have played them on and off. I spoke to a few people about what they put in their decks, and you know what I found with this particular division? Everyone has a very different deck. Some people have less infantry than others, some people have more artillery than others. AA is a bit all over the place, it's very weird. It's one of those decks that you can build a few different ways even for ranked. And I suppose what I should say there is ranked decks have to also be for you. So you will play a particular way, you will have a certain plan of how you want to play that deck in your head, and you have to kind of fit around that. It's no good just ripping someone else's ranked deck and trying to play it if you play in a different way to them. So one person is P. Tanner, he let me have a look at his deck, and he has a lot more artillery than I would take, and less infantry than I would take. And then on the other hand you had Bulba, who you will know from ranked if you've played ranked. He has a slightly different deck again. So while I like to take other people's thoughts on board when I do these, obviously I'm building it for how I would envisage me playing it. So when it comes to logistics in the 5e, I'm thinking I want more than 2 cards of logistics. So I can have 5,000, 5,000, and then I can have 6,000. So I'm going to take all the logistics that are there, basically. I wouldn't take a supply depot, just never in a ranked deck for me. I'm also going to take the command jeep because I get 3 of them. The other options, you only get 2. If you wanted something that's slightly more armored, go for it, especially if it's for team decks or whatever. Then I can completely understand that, but I always opt for what there is the most of, especially for ranked. Let's go straight into infantry. So you've got a reasonable amount of choices here. There's some stuff that I wouldn't necessarily touch at the moment. There's some stuff that I would always take. Some people would take the Milan 1 here. I wouldn't. I much prefer the Milan 2. At least I know it's doing 24 penetration. That's why I would take that. I would also just take it in the little jeep. Nice and quick. Then I'm going to take the commandos because they're quick, fast response, and they're very good squads, let's be honest. They have a very good machine gun set. They're obviously special forces, etc, etc. I wouldn't rank them up so you only get 2. I think that's a bit weird. I think you need at least 4 of these guys for the price, and then you want them coming in a Super Puma. So very good for taking forward positions, being quite aggressive. Emergency reinforcements maybe, but most people call these out at the start of the game to take positions quite early on, and that's probably how I would use them. So next up, really simple. You know me, I like some flamethrowers of some description in my deck, so I'm going to take the Sapper's Flam. I'm just going to take them in the truck. I don't think there's any reason I would take them in these. They're too slow. I want speed for these guys. They're going to be contesting towns and forests at the front. So we'll take those as well. Okay, next up, there's a few different choices. Obviously, you've got these guys up here in the military police option. What I like about these guys is they have a submachine gun, and submachine guns can do quite a bit of damage close range. They don't have one of the better submachine guns, though. You will notice that their accuracy is 35%. The good submachine guns are like 70, 80%. So I wouldn't rush to grab those. Machine guns I still wouldn't bother with. Certainly the heavy one is a bit better than it was, but I'm still not going to waste a slot, especially when they're quite expensive here. I'm not going to take any command infantry here because I got plenty of command tanks in this deck, so I'm going to ignore those. They're also not very good options. They've only got rifles or machine guns. None of them have anti-tank. So, next up, you've got this row here. You've got the escorted PC, which I don't think are worth it at the moment. I mean, they're fine as a cheap squad, but I'd rather just have something that can do a bit of everything and a bit of utility. So the chasseurs are a good choice for that. They have machine gun, they have anti-tank, and they have a FAMAS. Great. They also come in the AMX 10P, which has a 20mm autocannon. As you know, autocannons are in a reasonably good place right now, so I would stick one of those in for now. I might bring a second. I'm not going to rank them up because I want them to come in with as much availability on the AMX 10s as possible, because I want that autocannon spam, a bit like with the 39th and the BMP autocannon spam. We will be taking some more ranked up infantry though. So if I scroll down here, we have the Grenadier Voltigeurs. Now these guys are fine, but they only have the LRAC F1, but they're a 10-man squad, so you pay a bit more for them than the chasseurs. I really like these guys, the Grenadier Voltigeurs A-Pelas. The A-Pelas launcher is great, really strong. I'm going to take that ranked up, and I'm also going to bring them in a VAB. You could just bring them in the truck if you want. I'll take that. It's got a heavy machine gun, a bit of extra firepower for them. Let's make them meaty and scary. They're going to be our aggressive line infantry, okay? And obviously we can use them to kill tanks. Now, another squad here that are quite good, but are going to be situational, are the Groupie Anti-Char. Now, they have 2 A-Pelas launchers, makes them really strong versus vehicles, not so good against infantry. These guys are, again, a bit like, I think in one of my other decks, the 7th Panzer, I had a group like this going behind enemy lines, the Panzerjäger. So if I was going to use them, I'd use them for that. But admittedly, I don't think that I would do that here. I think these are getting expensive, the slots, and I kind of feel like I want some more just scrap infantry in there. So I'm actually going to take another card of chasseurs here in the AMX 10P. So let me just jiggle these around a bit. So commandos, flam. So I've got my long range, I've got my chasseurs in the AMX 10P, I've got my A-Pelas, Grenadier Voltigeurs, commandos, and Sapeurs flam. I'm going to leave these 2 empty for now, but I might come back here and add something else. If I was going to add something else here, I'd probably consider either chasseurs, possibly even the Grenadier Voltigeurs. The Groupie Anti-Char is certainly on my mind still, but I'm not sure I'd be sneaking behind enemy lines in a 1v1 as much as I might try in little team games and stuff with the 7th. I think I'd play it a bit safer, just because of my playstyle in 1v1. Let's move on to artillery for now. So for me, it's 120mm mortar that goes in, and I would take one of the AMX Alf 1. I wouldn't take anything else here personally. I'm not big on artillery, you'll notice this. I rarely call it in 1v1 unless we're in a truly locked up situation where I need to advance because I don't have the advantage in points. If, you know, my opponent's bringing in lots of artillery, then I might bring in some to counter battery if I think it's worth doing, but mostly I don't bring in Arty unless I really have to, because they're expensive. You know, that's 420 points to bring those in. Tank tab. Loads of tanks here. So, straight away, AMX 30 B2 command. 2 of those. Sorted. That means I've now got 7 commands in this deck. I'm happy enough with that. Then we're going to get the Brennus. We're going to rank it up. We're going to take 4 of them at the vet level 1, or trained as it is now. Remember, it's all shifted down 1. Then I'm going to take at least 2 cards of the AMX 30 B2. That gives me 10 of those, 4 of those, plenty of these. I'm also going to take, ranked up, a card of the AMX 30 Bs. Cheap and cheerful. They're nothing special. What's the big difference here is the cannon has less penetration. So you're paying a lot there for a lot of extra penetration, which is fine. That means they're good against other tanks. You know, the MX-30B2 is more effective, and you're going to have multiple of these to take on a T-80. But I like this because it's really cheap. And, you know, again, it's good fire support against infantry because they all have these autocannons. Don't underestimate the autocannons here. I'm going to stick that in as well. I'd consider taking another card of the AMX B2s here and having 15 available, because you do want to spam these things. The AMX-30 EBG, I'm not a huge fan of these in WARNO. The EBG type vehicles, the anti-infantry tanks that you got in Wargame Red Dragon, seem to do a lot more damage, and these just aren't as scary. And obviously the range isn't great either. They're going to be within range of, you know, once they're getting this close, they're starting to get in range of infantry anti-tank while they're fighting them. So I'm not too fussy. You got the P4 Milan with the Milan 2 there, and the Vab Mephisto. Some people love this. So quite a few people seem to take this. I'm not a huge fan of these ATGM carriers still because their stealth is mediocre. You got the AMX-10 there, and you've got the Vab there. I mean, of the two here, I think the Vab is a better option. Personally, I know it's not got as much armor, but it's not going to make too much difference. The other option there is the P4 Milan, which I don't think's bad. Those little jeeps are still pretty good for harassment. So I can understand why some people take them. I'm not going to rush to do it myself. Okay, Recon tab. We may go back to tank. We'll see where we're at the end. Recon tab, AMX-10 RC, just both of them. Why wouldn't you? And you're not going to rank them up because you want as many as possible. These things are still ridiculously good. They are one of the best vehicles, if not the best vehicle in the game. They are extremely fast, extremely accurate, and they do a shit ton of damage. Why wouldn't you take them? French bias. Simple as that. These have been ridiculously good since they were added, and they're still ridiculously good now, even though they're expensive. If these come charging at you at the start, they are very scary. They're also very good for dipping in and out of forests and causing people to waste ATGMs, and they're also very good at popping out, taking a shot, and then reversing back into a forest, because they have reasonable stealth for what they are, and they have very good optics. So it puts them in a very good position. What else do we want in there? Sorry, we probably want some infantry. I think the Dragon Paras are a nice squad. They have all those nice bonuses and get forward deploy and stuff, but I think it's got to be these guys for me. They're cheap. We've already got some expensive stuff, and I'd probably take them in the vehicle. It has a heavy machine gun, which is quite nice on this one. A lot of these vehicles only come with a medium machine gun, so it's quite nice that this one gets a heavy. You could just bring it in the P4, but I do like having an extra recon unit that comes for, well, not quite free, but you know what I mean. I'm going to stick that in there. I'm not going to rank them up because I'm not planning to fight with these guys. They're just recon. I'm feeling a little light on recon here, but we'll see how we go. Anti-air Mistral goes in without being ranked up. We're going to take the Roland 3 in there, and some people like to take this, the little truck with the cannon on the back. I don't think it's bad. Obviously, it's pretty scary to helicopters at the moment as well. I'm actually myself going to take a ranked up Roland 2 set. It means I get 4 of them. It means I've got 8 in total to bring in. Personal choice, I prefer that to this. I don't think this is bad, but its accuracy is pretty poor. I mean, you can rank it up to there and get 4 of them and really improve its accuracy, but I don't know. I think scary against choppers, and yes, it can fire at ground targets, but I'm happy with the Roland 2 there. Let's move on to helicopters. Okay, so Gazelle Hot 2. The Gazelle cannons, I think, are in a really bad place right now because obviously helicopters are in a bad place anyway, and the AA's been improved against them, and you have to get pretty damn close to use these, and they die in one hit to pretty much everything. So other than for cleaning stuff up behind your lines or where your enemy doesn't have any AA, the Gazelle cannon just isn't there for me. At least with the Gazelle Hot, you've got some range and you can use it against tanks and stuff and scare people off. But yeah, that's all I'm taking here. Air tab isn't terrible for this division. You get some cheap anti-air. Obviously, it's up to you which you take. This one's a bit cheaper. This one's a bit more expensive. I prefer the Mirage FIC 200 or F1C 200. Its missile is shorter range. Let's just pin that so I can show you. So its long range missile is shorter range, but it's more accurate. The Mirage also, or the Mirage F1C 200 also has better ECM and is faster. So it will chase down enemy jets that are slower and get in gun range. So that's why I would opt for that personally over the Mirage 3E. And I would actually take 2 cards of those. You also get very, very cheap seed here. Look at how cheap that seed jet is compared to what you get in other divisions. So you're going to stick that in. We're going to take the Jaguar HE bomber because we know it's a dive bomber and it's got 4 nice bombs. And I'm told, though I haven't confirmed it, that they have very nice bomb spread in this division. Now you have a couple of choices here. So some people take the cluster. I'm leaning towards the Jaguar anti-tank personally. I think you could go for either. I think the cluster is a bit more expensive, but it does have very good cluster bombs. 13 pen, pretty nice. I'm going to stick the Jaguar in myself, just because it's got very good accuracy, it's got very good penetration. This is a pretty scary jet if it hits. I mean, that's going to kill and do a lot of damage to tanks, so I like that in there. Now, that's 42 of 50, so I think we can go back in the deck and do a little bit of a look around and see if we can spend some points elsewhere. So one of those areas that I talked about possibly putting some more was the infantry tab. Because let's be fair here, 18 squads, another 5, another 4. We don't have a huge amount of just scrappy line infantry here, do we? I don't really want to take any more chasseurs in the AMX-10P. I think there's enough of those there. I'm tempted, I think, to take some Grenadier Voltigeurs in the truck so it can be sold and rank them up and get another 6 of those. I think that's, you know, just giving us another option there. I'm actually going to put them here so I don't confuse them with the A-Palas version. Maybe we put the A-Palas one up there and then move the commandos right to this end. You can set this up however you want. I just like having long range to short range to some extent. And then my commandos are just my special troops. That takes us to 45. I'm not going to put anything else in artillery. I think tanks, I'd certainly consider putting something in here. I'm really not on board with ATGM vehicles at the moment. I think I'd rather have another 5 AMX-30B2s personally. Obviously, this is very much a personal choice. I think, you know, there's something to be said for the ATGM vehicles still, but maybe they don't match my playstyle at the moment. I don't know, but I can completely understand why someone would take those. I'm just looking through and thinking, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try adding the cluster in there as well. I think there's the option here to have quite a nasty air tab, so we'll go for the clusters as well as the anti-tank. And I'm going to move the anti-tank up there just so we don't confuse them. So that's not bad, and we've hit the 50 points. So let's just recap quickly. Supply, we've gone for all the supply plus the command Jeep, because we get 3 of them. Infantry, we've gone for the Milan 2 Grenadier Voltigeurs A-Palas for that very nasty launcher. Couple of cards of the chasseurs brought in at just green veterancy so we can spam the MX-10P a little bit. I don't know if that's going to work out, but it's worth a try. Then we got the Grenadier Voltigeurs coming in just a truck, Sapper's Flam in a truck, and then the Commandos coming in the Puma for early capping is the plan for those. Artillery-wise, we've got the Mortars 120mm version and the MX Alpha 1. Tanks, 2 cards of the command tank, the Brennus, obviously, 3 cards of the MX-B2, and 1 card of the MX-30B. Again, this is more like fire support, because it's so cheap and it's not got as much penetration. But it's not bad. I should say it's a high explosive anti-tank round as well. So the other tanks here, and I completely forgot to mention this when we were looking through, so kudos if you stayed to the end. The other tanks here all have kinetic rounds. I should have said the AMX-30B only has heat rounds. I say only. It's not a bad thing. It guarantees them to do 1 damage no matter what when they fire at a tank. So it's not the end of the world. It's just, it's a very unique thing to this tank. There aren't many tanks in the game that have that. If there are any others at the moment, actually. Recon AMX-10 RCs have to go in there. And then the Eclairs for me. Obviously, Some people take lots of vehicles in here. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, I've seen people take a couple of cards of the VBL Recon and the VBL Milan or the Vab stuff like that. I'm still not really completely on board with all of these Recon vehicles. I need to play with them a bit more, I think, but I like having my infantry that I can just sit somewhere and hide them. And yeah, again, I can completely understand why someone would take the truck with the anti-air gun, but I will stick with my rocket or missile anti-air for the moment. Gazelle Hot 2 is the only thing I'm taking in that tab. I don't need 2 cards of them. They get shot down very easily. They're very weak. It's not a deck that you're going to bring a lot of helicopters in. And then the air tab. Maybe something gets removed from here and I take something somewhere else eventually. We'll see how much air I use. As you'll have noticed, I don't bring out air unless I have to. So it's a bit of a change of pace if I'm trying to play a division where I'm going to utilize the air. And to be fair, in this division, because your tanks aren't the beefiest, you kind of want to use them in conjunction with your air, I think, so that you can give them the most map presence you can. Because when you push out with those tanks, you're going to want a lot of them, but you're also going to want to scare other tanks away from engaging them. So even if you have to bring in a Jaguar anti-tank and force the enemy to smoke so you can close some distance and do more damage, that's good. There you go. There's the deck. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know what you would do with this deck. I think it is a deck that you can build a few different ways, and I have seen it built a few different ways by people who play a lot in the ranked ladder. So I am curious, if you would take something different, why would you take it? Obviously air tab, tank tab, and infantry tab in particular here. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please do like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you all soon for some more WARNO.